Hey everyone, you're here with Mark Boutwell. So today we have a very interesting conversation, and we're going to be talking about the powers of the president and the roles and responsibilities from the perspective of two veterans. A person that was in the military for a short amount of time, and another person that has been in the military for 20 years and a retired veteran. This gentleman, if you've ever seen the movie on Netflix, The Old Guard, it's one of the best ways I can represent or help you visualize who we're speaking to today. This gentleman is Mike Maroney. He was my commandant at the Pararescue Pipeline, and like I said, if you watch that movie, you'll understand, because this gentleman has went on through his pararescue career to rescue over 5,000 lives. And you know that if you give another person an opportunity to change their ways, they normally go on to do much more benefit and help to other people. So, Mike, please introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. First, I was not the commandant, I was just an instructor, so I was a lowly in-dock instructor. I know that 5,000 sounds like a lot of lives saved, but I have met PJs who had 10,000 and 15,000. So I don't consider that I did a lot. I helped a lot of people, and I'm very grateful for what I was able to do. But in the pararescue realm, I am a lowly, good PJ, and there are some really great PJs out there. I was a PJ for 20 years. Got a bunch of deployments, been to a bunch of places, had a lot of fun. Consider that I was basically paid to fall out of airplanes and get drunk with my friends for the most part. There were some rough days. There were days that were not good, but any day that most of us can survive and get home is not that bad of a day. So as long as all of us didn't die, it's not that bad of a day. And I love talking to you. You give me some great conversations and some good ideas and a nice platform to bounce off of. I'm not sure I'm totally qualified for this conversation, as, I was just, I'm an American, and, but I would never want to be the president. So I hope that any things that we throw or say, they're just two guys who recognize something that might be able to be fixed a little bit, but I do not have all the answers, nor do I am opinionated. I think if I'm opinionated, usually I keep them to myself. When you asked me to have this conversation with you, I was like, yeah, that sounds like an interesting conversation to have, from two different perspectives of, looking at, because what's president if not service? And if you're an elected official, you work for the people. And I think a lot of people get that. Maybe they start working for lobbyists or what they think that their party needs, and if people would just do what was best for the country instead of what was best for their party, I think there'd be a lot of better changes going on in our country and the world today.
Well said, Mike. And just because you're so humble, I'm just going to pat you on the back a little bit more, man, and tell everyone, literally for the last 10 years of his career, he helped to refine and train some of the most elite fighting force of the U.S. military. So literally, I don't want to say every TACP, but a lot of TACP, combat controllers, PJs, he has had the opportunity to influence, train, and literally that's the apex of the fighting force, the spear of the U.S. military. So I'll leave it at that because he's incredibly humble, although enough said on that. So let's get into the powers of the president. And I'm going to say what I learned. I'm the young buck. I don't have the experience you have. And I want you to tell me your viewpoint and where I'm wrong or where I can get more education on, just because with overlaying what I learned about Ron Paul and the roles and responsibilities of a president from Ron Paul, and then also learning about it when I was in the Guard with the 212th Pararescue. And it was actually specifically Dave Thompson that gave me this first conversation about the roles and responsibilities of a president, that it kind of opened up my mind, but I didn't get it. And then when I got out of the military and I listened to Ron Paul, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Well, I really like this guy. I hope he's the president. And then now as I see President Trump and his actions over the last 4 years versus the actions of President Bush when I was in the military. You've been in the military for 20 years, so you've been through it with 3-4 presidents, so you can kind of see presidents, what they say they're going to do and their actions militarily. And do they line up? And I understand that sometimes we put so much energy into the president and, oh, this is the guy to make the decisions. But then we have the attorneys that keep all of them in line, that actually prosecute our congressmen or Senate, our attorney generals, what I'm thinking, if any of them fall out of order. So there's multiple layers of due diligence. So we're supposed to keep everyone in order, but over the course of the last 50 years, and I could be wrong on this, many presidents have, I know they don't call them wars, they call them, what do they call them now? What's the proper verbal wording for when you go into another country, but it's not a war?
Invasion?
Well, if they call it something else specific, that's what I was thinking, invasion. They call it something very specific now. It's like when I went into the military and they told me, we do not have 1,000 Air Force bases around the world. They're called air bases. And recently I was told that it was switched from air base to even another word because of terminology.
It's all semantics.
Semantics. Go ahead.
Well, because, I mean, look at, they call Korea a police action because they were trying to make something that it was not. They called it a conflict. The war on terror, is whatever. There's some really good books about, so all these small little wars that we've had, since the 1890s, the Spanish-American War, there's a lot of names, but I mean, I don't want to get into, we could get into, because I believe since 1895, every war that we've gotten into has not been about anything other than money.
Agreed.
And it's just an excuse for certain companies to make more money as, in this recent global war on terror, the rise of the mercenary fighting force that we have, the rise of the force that we have to feed military over there, the KBR, the Halliburton, how much money have those companies made off of war is just, they made a couple more millionaires and nobody saw that money and everybody saw the pain and misery from it. And then I see the corruption, openly corrupt. At least I believe that they used to be not openly corrupt, but now they don't care. People just say whatever, do whatever, and then get reelected and then stay up there for 40 or 50 years. They don't know. They have no comprehension of what your average American or average regular person goes through. They can't drive a car. They don't know how to use a sport. It's confusing, and it shows the difference between us and them. And them keeps pushing, getting further away from us. I don't know if that's what you asked per se, but I don't know what we call wars now, but we've been doing dirty stuff. The CIA, you want to read a really good book, read Legacy of Ashes. And it's about how the CIA has been a mess since the beginning, and that we've been losing to the Russians because the Russians, the English, the French, they've had their intel systems for years, for centuries, working together and building it up. And we're new kid on the block. We don't know what the hell we're doing. We purport to look like we know what we're doing, but I don't believe, after reading that book, it was a wide-awake opener. Why does Iran hate us? Well, because we hope to overthrow their peaceful, legitimate government in 1954. Why do all these other people hate us? You just have to look back into your history. Guatemala, we overthrew them in 54, 58 maybe.
Gaddafi is still an open discussion on was it right or wrong.
Right. Well, what about Saddam Hussein? We backed him until one day we didn't back him. Manuel Noriega, Panama. They called it just cause, but I think they meant just cause. We can do it. We're going to do it.
See, this is beautiful because we go back now to the roles and responsibilities of the president. And I was fortunate because I joined the Guard, and Dave Thompson, he basically just really explained, said, listen, your job in the Guard is to protect the borders. It is not to go overseas. It is not to do anything else. It is to protect your borders. And yes, you might have to go overseas, but you know that your first duty is to your country. not
Right.
to overseas operations. And I never really got it until then I listened to Ron Paul. And then when Ron Paul talked about the roles and responsibilities of a president, how the roles and responsibilities of a president, or his duty, stops at 200 or 300 miles off the border. And at that point, his action has to stop, and it has to be filtered through the Senate and Congress. If it doesn't go through them, the only way he's allowed to influence international dealings is through tariffs. Saying, listen, I don't want to work with you, or this or that. It's not through with an iron fist. Am I correct on that, or am I incorrect on that?
No, I think that you're correct.
So, and I hate to even bring up Trump, really, because I try to take every president's action, their words and their actions, and anyone can say anything they want to say, although is their actions legal, is what I think about it, because legal is a written, defined law that a society has agreed upon that they are going to abide by because that's in line with their core values. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So I look at the president, Trump. I hate to even use his words. In his first term, I have seen him, and I've been out of the military. You're more still close to the military, so you probably hear more things than I do. But in my viewpoint, in the last 4 years, I've only heard of a few times he has encouraged like a conflict to happen. I think one of the biggest ones was maybe 2 years ago where he sent in the Navy SEALs, and I think one of them died or it was a bad mission. And so it's been like how he deals with China, how he deals with international issues has been in line with what I learned from Ron Paul and what I learned what my duties was as in the Guard. And I know reserve and active are different, and I would like more of an explanation on that as well. What is your viewpoint around that? Is Trump doing activities outside of the country, or is he just managing things that have been going on for a while? Or what's your viewpoint around that?
I'm not sure anybody's really managing anything at this point. It feels like nobody really knows what's going on. It's every man for themselves. And like I said earlier, that the political parties, well, is this good for my political party? Because if it's not, then, I can't go ahead and do it because it might make the Republicans look good. Or I can't do this because it makes the Democrats look good. Everything is along party lines. So I wish we had a third party, something else to choose from. I always thought that we're choosing the lesser of two evils, and that started with Dukakis going against the first Bush. It was like, well, which one's better, which one's worse, which one's like, and I believe that having a choice, or making the choice of the lesser of two evils has gotten us to this point, and that's why I always liked Pararescue in that I didn't care about the conflict, I didn't care about politics, I didn't care about what's going on. The only reason I was there was to save other Americans, to save NATO allies, to save local indigenous people that maybe got caught in the crossfire or wandered into a landmine field or whatever they had going on. I was just there to help people. I didn't have to think about all this stuff going on because to me, and I was having a conversation with another cone yesterday, we like to make things more complex than they need to be. And he said that if it's complex, then it's probably wrong. We don't have to make it this hard, but for some reason we do make things this hard. And life's supposed to be simple. It should be lived simply. It should be appreciated. It's the simple, small things in life that make life the awesome thing that it is. And that when we get into these gigantic, like I think back to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he said an argument that takes longer than 5 minutes, both parties are wrong. Mm-hmm. Because as human beings who can think, who can speak, how are we not coming up with ideas and things and or not understanding each other and where each other are coming from? Really good book, Malcolm Gladwell, Talking to Strangers, and it talks about how when Montezuma met Cortez was speaking through a monk who had been captured by some Indians. He was speaking to an Indian who spoke that language but had been captured by the Aztecs, and so she spoke the language of Montezuma. So imagine the worst game of telephone, where you're like, hey, the ball is on the tire, and by the time you get down to it, it's like, Jimmy's pregnant? What? It's so far out there. So imagine speaking a language to another person, to speak a language to another person, to speak a language to another person, And that's the entire world today. I don't see your point. You don't see my point. I have no idea where you're coming from. I can't see where you're coming from. I've had arguments with people where we were both saying the same thing, but coming from 180 degrees from each other. But we're saying the same exact thing and could not agree.
That's the story of our life, I think, too.
Yeah, so a little bit, if you get back to our
origin. Our origin.
Yes, our origin story.
Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please, continue.
Okay. You're good. This is what I think. But I think if we listened more, kept our ears open, maybe shut our mouths a little more, and were empathetic towards people and understanding that person just cut you off. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they just got told they have cancer. Maybe they got in a fight with their wife. Maybe they spilled coffee all over themselves. You don't know where people are coming from. But I think if we all could just agree that, life is a little rough right now. Everybody's a little sad. Things don't look kosher. Things don't look like they're going well. And in some ways they're not. But at the same time, we're the most technologically advanced we've ever been. We can put a guy on the moon, and yet we still can't feed everybody. We can't. Why am I living in a house with air conditioning in Texas, and people in other countries are not? How are we not all living our best lives, and how are we all not just grateful for what we have?
And just that a few minutes right there, you had so many amazing topics, and just to bring a couple of them to the surface was really less complaining, more problem solving at the very end, which I love. I mean, that's the mindset of a PJ is where you get in a shit position and you got to solve some problems quickly. And then, like what you said in the beginning, the origins of our American core values, where we came from, how did we get to the problem we got to 600 years later with Columbus and Cortez? We got to look at what were their core values and their influence and how they influenced, the natives here, and then fast forward that 600 years and realize that the methods that they used to, I don't want to say invade or conquer or genocide. That's what happened. That's what happened.
Exactly what happened.
And it is, yeah. Is that how it ended up? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. I'm sorry. I'm just agreeing with you. It's just, to whitewash it, to try to it is what it is. Like, we came over, stole the land, and a quarter of me was already here, so, I feel all right about that. But the rest of me came in here and said, oh, hey, this was good. But take it down, and we're about to go way off topic, I think, because if you take it down to everybody that has come here, yes, they brought slaves. There were slaves all over South America, North America, everywhere. We were not the only place, all right? In Brazil, they have 26 different colors of black and different layers and treat people differently the darker they are. In India, they have a caste system that if you're born into, you will never get out of. Here, they have indentured servants, British people who came over, the Irish, the British cheating everybody. The Italians being shit on, the Chinese who built our railroad who were blown up so we could have more railroad. I mean, everybody who has come here to this country has had a rough time. And my belief is, okay, yes, it sucks for everybody. Look at the Native Americans. We stole it from them to begin with. But you're in America. You have the greatest opportunity out of anywhere else in the world. The American dream is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It's the ability to do these things that will make you happy. It's the ability to come up from wherever you're at, fight real hard, work real hard, and achieve something, versus in the Soviet Union, we're all shit together. In China, we're all shit together, and you're not going to get anything more. The opportunity is there. I mean, look who anyone can be a president, right? Barack Obama grew up middle class. Look what he became, I mean, most of the other presidents were kind of rich and came from other things, but a peanut farmer from Georgia, anybody could do it. I don't think you can do it now because for Congress and the Senate, you got to have a lot of money. You have to have at least $1 million. So if you don't have money or you don't have backing, you're not going to go anywhere, which is sad because we really need a Mr. Smith goes to Washington kind of guy or woman. I was really digging Tulsi. I was pro-Tulsi, pro-Jocko, I was happy about that, but because she's a veteran, and she's been to war, and I wish that, to be president, that you had to have been war, so that way you'd be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't just haphazardly go to war or just send missiles or do something. Like, maybe we should talk. Or some people you can't talk to, I got it. But have we ended every single opportunity to speak to somebody rather than let's just drop bombs and put troops in and call it a day? There's a caste system in America, and people think that it's about black, it's about brown, it's about poverty. Police are killing white people, black people, brown people. The Texas Rangers were killing Mexicans in the early 1900s and later. The police patrols that were chasing slaves, from the early 1860s and before. All those things, it's about poverty. It's about have and have not. And that's what is tearing apart this country, because if we would see, we're human beings and we're all being stepped on and our rights are being taken away. Look, we have to wear masks everywhere we go now.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the Constitution is that given?
Totally. It's a complete erosion of our constitutional rights. And not to cut you off, please continue.
Well, one more thing. And while we're arguing about black, white, brown, yellow, red, we're missing the point, and they're doing other things, and they're making more money, and they're coming up, and we're going down. Look at all the people that will not have jobs, cannot find jobs, because their jobs are now gone.
Mm-hmm.
Within 10 years, they say that there'll be no more truck drivers. There'll be driverless trucks just driving everything. Yes, it can save money. Yes, it can make you more money. Yes, Walmart can sell you a 50-inch, flat screen TV, 10K, whatever, for $199. But they're not paying their people a living wage. They're not giving them 40 hours a week so they can get insurance. They're not paying them enough to where they can live, and then they're on subsistence from the government. The Waltons have $26 million apiece. And I'm not faulting these people that make money. Make your money. But do you need $26 million? Jeff Bezos says he's entitled to all that money. Come on.
Exactly.
Do you need $500 million? No. The guy, Bloomberg, that ran for president, in 34 days, he spent $500 million. He could have said, you know what? Every American, I will give you $1 million, vote for me, and you can't make it with $1 million, then you're screwed. Don't go buy tattoos. Don't go buy flat screen TVs. Don't go waste your money. Save your money. Do what you're supposed to do. Take care of yourself. And, what about prisons for profit?
Mm-hmm.
How is a free country making money off its people in prison?
Absolutely.
And that all comes down from the top. Because, like you said, how was this country started? It was an invasion. It was started by people who invaded it. And it's a great place. It's a great idea. But it's as messed up and evil and twisted as every other country that we purport to be better than.
I hope I can loop this one around, because the word just keeps popping in my mind every time you keep saying another thing. Factions. And I hope I'm saying that word correctly. It's just different factions in the government, or like what I'm trying to say, and I hope I'm saying this word right, is there was Cortez Columbus. They had their core values. They were brought up. They had their influence. And even if the business plan of invading or conquering wasn't fully developed at that point, fast forward 600 years, that business plan has inflated. It's been refined. And so now we have 1,000 air bases around the United States. Hopefully I'm using the right terminology. And in my viewpoint, the United States has created a unique selling proposition. And their unique selling proposition is war or security for corporations. And where it gets convoluted is because of the 14th Amendment. And a lot of people don't know that only 18 laws went to the federal level to define rights for African Americans, but 278 laws, if I remember correctly, went to the federal level to define rights for corporations. And so where this whole convoluted thing happened is, prior to this, corporations were only used for anonymity around liability, because communities would use corporations to build a bridge or build a town hall. And the whole community agreed that we're all going to build this together, and if it falls down and kills everyone, no one's liable. But then when the 14th Amendment happened, they began to see corporations as an individual. And because when you look at corporations as an individual, they now got the benefit of two things. They got the benefit of anonymity, and they got the benefit of taxation, not being taxed. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize that the entire tax law, there's literally only like 1 or 2 pages in the entire tax code to increase taxes. All the rest of them are to how to not pay taxes. But because human beings don't have the wealth to comprehend the 900 pages of law of how to save savings, they fall under those 2 pages of being screwed. And so corporations, though, because of the complexity of the 14th Amendment and because of the thousands of years of anonymity of how corporations were supposed to be used in the beginning, those two things created this whole capitalism, really, created the modern-day capitalism situation. But my viewpoint of around factions is that we have this, it's like yin and yang, and I don't want to say them as good and bad, but just two different sides of the mind. One, think about the Pilgrims, right? I don't know if they were good or bad. I mean, they came over and just took over land anyways as well. But at some level, they did it differently.
They fled religious persecution and then turned around and did religious persecution.
Exactly. You got it, right? They just found a less primitive culture to step on, but they cried out being a victim through the whole process. So we have these factions of mindsets, right? We have a victim, we have a conqueror, we have the nurturer, let's say they're the Native Americans, different types of characteristics or of people. And I guess my point to this is that I can trust or believe that there's different factions in the United States of America government because there's different ideologies that were developed and inflamed and refined through the development of the United States of America over 600 years. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so now we go back, right? So now 600 years through this whole melting pot of supposedly we've created laws, and there's these different factions. There's these old mindsets, like this whole Jeffrey Epstein pedo thing. I called that the old faction of mindset. And then we're battling the new faction of mindset of like, hey, that's not right, or because of internet or whatever. And also throughout many years, laws have been developed saying like our people on some level have said this is not okay with us and we don't want it part of our society anymore. Same thing with the roles and the responsibilities of the president, which we're getting back to. I wonder, is Trump operating more in line with the roles and the responsibilities that we have allotted as a people over the course of the last few hundred years? Is he operating more in line with those roles and responsibilities than the last 50 years of presidents? Is he operating more in that realm? Who knows? Trump might be a rapist. He might do all that stuff. I'm not bringing that shit up. I am specifically talking about the roles and the responsibilities of the CEO, the President of the United States of America. In your viewpoint, operating more in line with those guidelines we've given him over the last 4 years than other presidents.
So there's a really good book by H.R. McMaster, he was the National Security Advisor for President Trump, and it's called Dereliction of Duty. Lyndon Johnson, Robert McNamara, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Lies That Led to Vietnam. And I don't think any of these guys are telling us the truth. Do you remember Bill Hicks? He was a comedian.
Absolutely. I love him.
Do you remember the part where he's talking about the guy he's like, I'm pretty sure when the guy gets elected president, they bring him into a dark room and there's guys smoking cigarettes, and they show him the Kennedy assassination from a whole nother side, And he's like, what's my agenda? What do you need me to do? I'm not saying that there's that going on, but I feel that there is a little bit of that going on, because who?
Well,
first off,
just as a side note, look at Trump. Right after he got elected, he spent all that money to build up and fortify Trump Towers to stay there versus the White House. Maybe he felt a little unsafe being at the White House. But please continue.
We're onto something. So, elected by the people, for the people, and of the people. We're not elected by the people because, you got the whole electoral college. It's the big states that have all the people get to elect the people. The little states don't matter. For the people, for businesses, and back to your point about businesses, corporations are not people. They shouldn't have a vote. They shouldn't have a say. But corporations are people as chosen and said by the Supreme Court. and no longer of the people. They're too far away. I don't think you want to get a conspiracy theorist. I think he's been on the take for the KGB since 1987. I mean, you got a rich, single playboy dude bouncing around doing whatever he wants. I'm sure they got all kinds of trash on him, because some of the things he does and says makes absolutely no sense to me. People call him out like they know he's lying, and he says, nope, it wasn't me. You know, and people are like, oh, he says not him, you know. Meanwhile, we're arguing about this and that and, you know, conspiracy theories, but not getting to the point of anything or even doing anything to help each other. I would have hoped that this coronavirus, imagine this, there's a meteor coming towards the planet. We're all going to die while we all work together and figure out something. There's a virus that's going to kill all of us, whether you're Chinese, American, or from South America. It doesn't matter. It's going to kill all of us, okay? Why are we not all working together? Don't you think that a moment like this would bring the team together and everyone go, let's put aside our differences? And that's why we like almost need like a zombie apocalypse or something to bring people together to like, oh, maybe we should work together. You know, you're not that much different than me. I was telling people the other day, I'm like, there's no difference between any of us because we all die, right? There's only one race, the human race, and we all will die at the end. There is nobody that gets to live. You know, I don't know if we get to come back or not. That's another topic, but eventually we will all die, and so that makes us all equal. Everybody is going to die and end up in the ground. And what are we arguing about? Absolutely nothing.
You slightly break my heart in this conversation because you make me slightly realize that we are two men that signed up willing to, in some level, die for our country, yet we have no idea whether our presidents have ever been following the law, and we have no idea of their core values, yet we were willing to die for them and the overall purpose.
And so look at the coronavirus now. My girlfriend brought this up. She said, I'm not willing to die for you because I can't go near you. I can't give you a hug. I can't talk to you. Right? Or not to be.
I know, that was funny.
This is what you're telling people. You're not worth it. Versus look at the job that you and I signed up for. We were willing to die for anybody. We don't know who the we're going to go save. We don't know what the kind of person they are. But I have the hope that they're a good person, and I have the hope that they will be so appreciative that they're alive that maybe if they weren't the best person, that they find their best person and they come out of that in the end a better person and appreciative of what they have and where they are and say, holy moly, how have I missed out on my life? I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to do more. I'm going to be grateful every single day. You ever watch Platoon?
A little bit. I'm going to probably watch more of it now that you're recommending it. Please tell me.
All right. Please watch that movie. I really love that movie. There's a scene where King is leaving. It's right before the big battle, and he's got orders that he can leave, and he's, like, happy. And he's telling Taylor, and he says that you survive, you get out of here, and every day after this is gravy. Every day after this is good. And that's where I'm at. I don't have to go to war anymore. I don't have to do anything like that. I'm free. I'm home. I'm alive. Every day is great. You know, nobody's shooting at me. Nobody's trying to kill me. I don't have to try to kill anybody. Everything is good. You know, and if you can look at it from that point of view and just be appreciative of what you have and where you are and the opportunities you have. If you don't like where you live, move. Get out of there. Go to school. Join the military. Do something. Get a job. And I know it's harder to get a job these days, but if you really want something, a person with a purpose cannot be defeated. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you put your mind to it and you put your effort, will it be fast? Maybe not. But slow and steady wins the race. You know, my mom worked in the fields. Her family came over to America when she was 7, legally, and worked her way out of the fields. I worked one day in the fields and was like, forget that. This is the worst thing ever. And I wouldn't do it. So I say, all right, so I have to work hard. I have to be smart. I have to do this. I have to do that. And the military afforded me a middle-class lifestyle and has helped me feed my children for, 18 years now and live a very comfortable life. Maybe not while you're deployed or anything, but even then it wasn't that bad because I was in the Air Force. The things that we do are the things that we're willing to do. Suffer now and it will pay off later. Bill Gates working on his computer as a 14-year-old, 32 hours a day, 9 days a week. Look what it paid off. Soccer players, whatever, Kobe Bryant, if you practice, if you try hard enough, if you use your God-given talent, you can get out of wherever you're at and you can have a better life. You just have to work for it. And that's the American dream. You have to work for it. It's not given to you. And I think every American is entitled. I'd even say I don't even fully understand everything that we have and the opportunities that we have because we have it that good. The people that made us were made by people who came from World War II, who came from the Great Depression. They were some hard-working, right? They did everything they could to get out of where they were at, and they were better for it, and it made us stronger. But then we tried to make the world a better place, so then we're like, let's give our kids phones. Let's let our kids have game systems. You know what? Let's give them everything that we never had because this is the way it's supposed to be. Everybody should live better than their previous people. I want my kids to be stronger, smarter, taller, better looking than me. That's evolution. They need to be, because the world's only getting worse, so I need them prepared for what's coming. And if they can't work hard and they can't work smart and they can't work together as a team, because I'm an alpha warrior and I'm better than you, and no. We need more bravos, because a bravo is an alpha that can work with people. Mm-hmm. Because do you need me in charge? Okay, I can be in charge. Do you not need me being in charge? Okay, I will not be in charge. I can follow directions. And it's that simple, but we can't. We're I'm better than you. I'm better than this. I can do blah, 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 And, I think every American is entitled and spoiled and does not understand what it's like to be in, I'm going to say a third world country, but it shouldn't be a third world country because there's only one planet. We should all be in the first world. It should be good for everybody.
And just for anyone listening still at this point, hopefully everyone is, I know we've said a couple names there where they're getting a lot of publicity around this whole Jeffrey Epstein, like Bill Gates and all this stuff. And what I encourage you to do is it's hard to say this, but, do as I say, not as I do. And so take the positive that these people have said and run it through your core values and use it. But, not everyone's perfect, and there are people out there, who immunizations and yada, yada, and all that stuff. But some of these people have also said some very positive things. And even though they have done some negative things, you can take the positive things they have done and apply it in your life, and it doesn't mean you're like them. It just means that you are capable of listening to something that has some wisdom, has a great viewpoint, and you're capable of moving your ego aside and applying it in your own life. And that's a whole nother level of consciousness. So just keep that in mind. And also, in addition to this, as we're talking, it brings up something that a friend of mine told me. He said, and it's sad to say, he told me this when I was 26, and I went through my entire military experience without having any core values. Anyone that wants to go to the military, I would highly recommend you develop some personal core values prior to going into the military or doing anything. But he said this. He said, Mark, go home and Google what core values are, but they're going to be like honesty, teamwork, understanding, different things like that. But instead of just taking the definition, make a definition for yourself. So like for me, I have 5 core values: honesty, understanding, appreciate, respect, and teamwork. And I'll only give a few definitions, but understanding, wear the other man's shoes before I react. That's my definition. It allows me to remember those core values every single time I have a questionable decision or something that it's unsurety. It's kind of like chaos. You said something earlier about one of the other cones that said, if it's chaotic, it's probably not good. Well, at times, something that's chaotic is also an opportunity that helps bring your core values to the surface that you never knew what they actually were. And so you have that challenging moment to either go down a slippery slope of bad habits that will only lead down a direction of being a victim, or you have the opportunity to rise to the challenge, do it to the best of your ability, be a problem solver, and make a decision that's going to make you feel good at the end of the day so you don't lose a wink of sleep, no matter how tough that day was, no matter if you saw a dead body, you had to tell your best friend no that they couldn't stay at your house, you're still not going to lose sleep because you know that was the healthiest decision for yourself and for your core family. in your community?
I think so. I'm not a Bill Gates fan. He's done a lot of it, but he does have a very good hard work ethic.
He does. He has a great hard work ethic. He does.
And so the other day, Biden, this is speaking about what you were doing, he quoted Mao Zedong, but it was a really good quote. And Mao Zedong is a horrible person, but communism and socialism at their core sound like a really great idea. Oh, we're all equal and we all have the same thing. Hey, that sounds awesome. In practice, you can't so much trust people, but in theory, it sounds really good. And so Mao Zedong, quoted by Joe Biden, that women hold up half the sky. And what he was talking about was, well, who holds the other half? Well, men do. So it takes two of us. It's a teamwork thing, like you were saying. And I've always liked the Air Force core values. I think they're pretty good. But if I just spout off, the Cub Scout rules, but I don't internalize it for myself or understand it like you were saying, then it's just words. And they're just words until you end up on a really, really bad day, and it's, will I steal this plank from a drowning person to save my own life, or will I do what's best for all of us, and maybe we'll work together as a team, maybe we swim harder, maybe I do drown, but if I save myself at the expense of somebody else, what have I really saved? Nothing. Because I am nothing. Because anybody that would take from another human being to save themselves isn't worth anything. That's not the way to go. Although nothing is known until you're put in that position, and then it's like, I have all these medical skills as a PJ, but I'm working on somebody. It's all just theory and there's no practice. It's like, oh, I guess the heart does work like this, or, something to that effect. You have no idea. So hopefully in your life, you're never challenged, that much to where you have to come into the chaos and is this really, what I believe? But I would have faith and hope in a human being that you would be able to surpass and overcome and thrive and be a better person learning from whatever experience put you there.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for this lifelong educational experience with you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm just learning myself, bro. Day by day.
Yeah.
I do my best.
I don't know if Buddha actually said this or who said it, but I don't know if they even said it. Maybe I just said it. I'm not sure. But they said if you can go outside and learn a lesson by the wind blowing a leaf over, you are capable of growing at any point in your life or something like that. So
ooh.
I guess that's my point. I've just always appreciated, that's my point. I appreciate this, challenging conversations, ability to give time to each other to articulate thoughts and keep refining our own factions in our minds so that we become once again, a United States. And we can recognize our core values that we are happy with. And we find a president that will do the same.
And to build on that, so say you didn't agree with me, or you thought differently, I thought differently. It doesn't matter because they're just thoughts. You can think whatever you want, just don't hurt anybody.
Absolutely. Joe Rogan said that too. It was like the second you hit someone when you're in an argument, it doesn't matter if you're right. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Yep.
Goes with all the wars. And, if there's defending and offending, and...
Yep. And everybody's too easily offended. You cannot be... So, like, on the teams, I've seen them make dudes cry. I've seen them too. Okay, I'm like, okay, we don't like this guy. I got it. But do we have to really, hurt his feelings and, just dig him into the ground and dominate him? Yeah, fuck that dude. We have to. And I'm not a bandwagon guy. If I don't like somebody, it's because I don't like you. It's not because, Mark said that you're a dick, so I don't like you. Because I have lots of friends that I'm friends with, and they hate each other. I get along with this guy and I get along with that guy, but they don't get along with each other.
Funny.
And there's lots of people who don't like me, and I'm okay with that because I'm not going to change who I am. Now, if I'm a rapist or a racist or doing shit like that, and somebody's like, hey, you shouldn't do that to women, or black people are equal. Oh, you know what? You're right. I'm willing to learn on things like that. But like on my core values of, what life is worth, of what people are worth, all lives matter. As a pararescueman, you don't get to pick who you get to rescue. None of that. So it blows me away that people are so quick to judge each other and, give me 60 seconds, I can give you 90 reasons to hate somebody other than the color of their skin or their religion or where they came from. There's lots of people that are just assholes. And in America, that's your God-given right. You can be an asshole. But you shouldn't take it out on other people. You shouldn't be mean to other people. You shouldn't cause violence to other people. And violence being words, violence being actions. I was thinking about, there was an article written years ago, and it was talking about mothers. It was saying that 9 out of 10 mothers at some point want to choke out that new baby because the baby won't go to sleep, and they're going nuts, and they can't get any sleep. As a parent, I'm like, oh my God, why don't you go to sleep? What is wrong with you? I can't beat you. I can't make you happy. You're just like, So I understand. But they thought about it. They didn't do it. Mm-hmm. A thought is just a thought. Now a thought can have a lot of power, so I'm not denying the power of words and things like that, but I'm saying if you just think something, it doesn't make you a horrible person. You just have to not act on that, and you have to recognize, where did this thought come from?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Everyone has thoughts, but which one do you decide to take action on? And what we're talking about a second ago, developing your personal core values helps refine that process. And what sad thing is, if you're a rapist and you develop your core values, you're only going to become a really great one of those types of men. But if you develop your core values and you're a good man, you have the potential of reaching Gandhi level. And I understand Gandhi, there's a whole conspiracy around Gandhi as well. But take the good, not the bad. You can reach these Jesus or Christ-like energy levels.
Like you said, it's intention. What is my intention? Did I come here to do a good job, or did I come here for me? And everybody is human. I mean, they've got trash on Martin Luther King Jr., they got trash on Malcolm X, they got trash on George Washington, they got trash on everybody, because nobody is perfect. And is your intention, were you more for good than the bad that you did? And it's a rough, tough thing, because, Washington did have slaves, and I had issues with that. But, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't have a good answer. I'm not him. I don't want people judging me. So I try to observe more and judge less.
Could Washington have even been Washington if he didn't have slaves at the time?
The arguments that I've read, I'm glad we're getting back into presidential things. The arguments that I've read, there's a really good book called Washington, a Memoir by, he wrote about Hamilton too. He's written some good, Cornwall.
I think it was Cornwall, yeah.
But
Cornwall.
What he wrote was,
I think.
What he wrote was that, all right, so Washington had slaves, and he was the only guy that both parties could agree on to be the most in-the-middle guy that both parties were like, yeah, we like him. When was the last time you've ever heard both parties say, yeah, we like him together? I don't think ever. And not in our lifetime has anybody ever agreed. It seems to be every year when the election comes through, the person wins by, a couple thousand votes or 60,000 votes or 100,000 votes. But in this size of a country, 100,000 votes is 1%. It's not that much. But we're so divided, and it kind of shows how we're divided, because the people that we're picking are 50-50. It's like, well, I don't know. So the argument was that he said that if he got rid of the slaves, that the slave-bearing, hoarding nations, countries, states, whatever the hell they were at that time, would have given him shit and not listened to him and been like, oh, he's just an abolitionist and yada, yada, yada. And then the other people, he was stuck in the middle. Like, he couldn't get rid of them and he couldn't keep them. And their lives, so I'm not breaking them down into that, but in this political spectrum of world that we live in and the way that they make their decisions, well, what's going to get me elected? If I don't do this, then they won't elect me. If I do this, then they won't elect me. And this is why I think it's very interesting that Trump comes from a reality TV series, because I believe that this is all just like a reality TV series. It's all based off of, me. Look at me. Look what I can do. Follow me around. See what I do all day. And then it's not real, because, as we know, all reality TV shows are kind of scripted, because they cannot, the way that people talk to each other and the way that things go down in some of these shows, be like, that's scripted for TV. It's not reality. And all the news, I think there is fake news. I think the whole thing is fake news, because nobody's given us the truth. They used to, remember when the news used to give you the story or what happened, and then it was up to you to decide what happened, versus now Fox News, CNN, they tell you how you should think. They tell you how you should feel about this. And, oh, by the way, this shooting just happened. I think it's terrorist related. And then an hour from now, it was a workplace shooting. It wasn't terrorist related. It was this, it was that. And then to call someplace a workplace shooting and view it as was just this, no, that is terrorism. If you are scared to go to work, if you are scared to go to school, if you are concerned about those things, that's terrorism. You shouldn't be scared. I don't lock my doors. Why? Because I don't want to live in a world where I have to lock my doors and feel unsafe and scared of everybody. I try not to wear a mask. If I have to wear a mask going to the store, I do it because it's polite. But am I doing it because I feel that it's helping me? No. People are wearing bandanas, and they're not even real masks. It's all just to make us feel safe, to say, oh, you're okay, it's not that, And meanwhile, they're not telling the truth. The coronavirus is real. There's a Russian study that they think that they've linked to, there's a disease that people have, and they don't know it because it doesn't really do anything. But if you do have it, it tends to make you bleed more and bleed quicker. But once the coronavirus gets a hold of you, if you have this, it actually does the opposite. And instead of you bleeding quickly, it actually makes you clot quicker. And that's why they're getting the full system meltdown that they're getting. And please, God, don't go to a hospital if you're sick. Hospitals where people go to die. People were alive. When I dropped them off, when I came back, they were dead. So I don't ask any questions. I'm like, they were alive when I left them. Count it as a win. Because people die there. I'm not blaming doctors, nurses, whatever. I'm just saying that, to me, a hospital is just God's waiting room. You're just waiting to die. Do not go if you don't need to go. Stay home. Go in your backyard. Get some sun. Get some vitamin D. Do some yoga. Do some workouts. Go for a swim. Stay healthy. Build up your immune system. Take showers. Wash your hands. Clean your clothes. If you're meant to die, you're meant to die. If I'm meant to die, I'm meant to die. But I'm not going to live in fear, and I want to live the best life that I can, doing the most I can for the most people that I can, and being brave in this world, right? Gladiator, death smiles at us all. All a brave man can do is smile back. We're all going to die, so Pete Rose and enjoy every single moment you have and live life to its fullest.
What you're saying right now, and for everyone still listening, I know it might be kind of a hard perspective to think about when you really do think about it. And this is just a perspective from two paramedics. You drop off someone in the hospital. Is a hospital really set up as an efficient way to harvest organs and to recycle body parts throughout our society? That's a whole nother conversation. And the Jim Carrey flat earth theory is a whole nother conversation. I actually called Ben Walker a couple days ago, and I was like, hey, you went to Antarctica. Is that a wall keeping us in? Okay, you were there. Or is that an island? I don't know if you ever heard of that. Is that Antarctica being the wall that keeps us in, like the wall that Jim Carrey goes to at the end of his movie, and he's like, this is the wall, and there are a lot of people say that, flat earth theory, we go in circles, and the big wall is just Antarctica all the way around the earth. And that's why we have, blind spots on different parts of Antarctica, yada, yada, blah, blah. But
yeah, no, I don't like the flat earth theory, but I do like flat earthers in that at least they're questioning something versus just blind acceptance.
Totally.
The maps that we see are not drawn to scale. Africa is a lot larger than it looks, but the way that they accentuate the maps, the way that they put, North America on top.
On top, exactly.
It's a crazy insanity that we just keep putting on top of each other and pushing people down.
Mike, thank you for your time today. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for your time. If you ever decide to have me back on, I would love to. And we could actually maybe try to stay on topic. I think it is on topic. It's just that there's so much going on. And the people that are running for president, I mean, and granted, I would never run for president. One, I got too much crap on me. And who the hell would want that job? And why is it only a one-person job? Like, there should be somebody handling, maybe we need two presidents. The Spartans had two, kings. We need one person for domestic, one person for foreign, one person. Why is one person's vision and dream with their party what's going to drive us for the next 4 years? And then when we elect somebody else for the next 4 years, I'm just going to repeal everything and we're going back to the way it was.
Mike, you are a retired veteran. You have saved over 5,000 lives. You were willing to put your life on the country. And if there is any veteran out there that should have an opinion on the status of our country, you're one of them. So, thank you for your service.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Can I throw in one more thing and then I'll let you
No, it's
go?
okay. It's okay. We've hit some really great topics. Sometimes I feel like I need to let you go because you're at work right now, and I want someone to come be like, hey, why are you talking on the phone versus at work?
What kind of seditionist are you? What I think about the military is we defend freedom. We don't get to tell people how to enjoy their freedom. And I think that's why one of the reasons I joined the military was because I felt that I had this gift. I'm living in America. I'm living in California. I'm surfing. I love life. Life is beautiful. But what had I done to say thank you? What have I done to earn that? I won the lottery and got born in California. Like, that's as good as it gets, other than Hawaii or Puerto Rico or Costa Rica. That's what I was given, and it was free. And so I joined the military because I wanted to be grateful and give back for what I had received. And so we defend freedom. We don't get to tell everybody. If we had just listened to Colin Kaepernick, all he was doing was taking a knee to bring a voice to a problem that he saw. Oh, my God, he's ruining football. I can't watch football anymore. It's horrible, blah, blah, blah. And now we have riots, and now we have things going on. Like, if you don't listen to somebody when they're talking to you, maybe you'll listen when they become violent, and violence is not the answer, unfortunately. But people are at a point where their voices haven't been heard, so violence becomes their only answer. But there's a very good point. Police officers are killing people, but they're killing white, they're killing brown, they're killing black, they're killing everybody, and then they're getting killed. Because they're like us, they're servants. They're holding the line of what they think is right. What about when they were going to invade Area 51? And, their motto was, well, they can't shoot us all. And I heard military members saying, well, I'll shoot them. They shouldn't be going there anyway. And I'm thinking, dude, because you don't see them as a human being, because you see them as a hippie, because you see them as an activist, because you see them as
civilian.
They're American, yes. And that's not the way it should be.
Yep.
Every single life has value, and we need to learn more empathy for each other and understanding and work together instead of working against each other, because working against each other is not working.
Man, there's so many conversations in that itself, Like, I remember, right, when I joined the military, you are no longer a civilian. It was a language terminology difference, a segregation. And I get why they do it. They call it brainwashing. But it is an indoctrination course. You go to prison, they call it a rehabilitation center. It's like our society says we want us to live a certain way, or our organization, and you're either going to do it or we're going to force you to do it, or you're going to get the out.
Yeah.
Mike, do you like to say anything else?
I'll just say thank you for listening, and just think for yourselves. Learn to think, learn to read. If you see something on TV, fact check it, look for other answers, see if there's other ways. Believe in yourself, believe in others. Don't lose hope, because a hopeless person is, like a scared animal backed into a corner with nowhere to go. And listen to people and talk to people and see where they come from. And don't just have friends that look like you, act like you, speak like you, think like you. Have friends that come from all walks of life, all nationalities, all religions, all sexes, all whatever, and just live the best you can.
Coming from a 20-year retired veteran. Mike.
And if you can join the military and retire, it's worth it for that retirement.
That's actually, I completely agree. I actually tell every single person, the likelihood of you dying in the military is very low. Very low. And 95% of every single person that goes into the military does not see combat. They are supportive. They are support. You know, so go to the military, get your benefits, become a citizen of the United States of America, and take advantage of those benefits, even if it takes forever to get your dental done.
or into a VA.
Yeah. It's still there, and it's still not going to cost you $100,000 and a lifetime of slavery.
Or if you're really smart, just go to school, figure out something, and just skip the whole military in general and be a happy person and appreciate. Join the Kiwanis, join the JCs, join some kind of service organization, make the world better that way.
Well,
teacher, be a firefighter, be a policeman, live a life of service. And if you live a life of service, putting other people in front of you, your life's not wasted, and you'll find much more happiness than if you put yourself before other people.
What did you say before you said a little bit ago, something about purpose? A life of purpose?
A life of purpose.
You said
a person with a purpose cannot be defeated.
Say that one more time for me.
A person with a purpose cannot be defeated.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to let you go, and I hope to have another great conversation with you about just various topics of military and our experience. Have a great day, brother.
Feel free to hit me up anytime. You too, bro. Thank you.
I'm going to make sure to put all the links about Mike down below. He still trains and develops the minds, and physically, actually. He has a training program for pararescuemen, combat controllers, SEALs, SWCC. If you want to be SWAT, it doesn't matter if you want to be a fighter. This man can develop you and train you to be a healthy man, because he has went through many challenges and has come through the other side, as you can hear, with a half-decent mindset. So put all the links below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, bro. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye, brother.
We are a commitment-based purchase website, meaning that when you purchase something from our website, you are making a commitment to give away these brochures, give away and put on bumper stickers, put up the yard sign, or hang the flag. Our vision is to bring public awareness to organized pedophile rings. Our mission is to turn prey into predators, and our values is righteousness, bringing the light into the darkness, integrity, stay consistent, and endurance, never quitting. We also recommend to subscribe to other channels like Ryan Dawson, Sean Atwood, for more information around organized pedophile blackmail rings. Thanks so much. Please subscribe, and have a great day, everyone.